Good morning, wonderful learners! I hope you are having a great day. I am Mr. Aris Julius Rosanes of Wawangpulo National High School. You can just call me Sir Aris, and I'm your online teacher for today. Send your heart reacts to let me and your English teachers know that you are tuned in. Today's topic is taken from the alternative delivery mode entitled Writing a Critic Paper, written by Mr. Wilfred A. Tapoy of Manita National High School.
For today's discussion, our most essential learning competency is compose an independent critic of a chosen selection.
Let's rate movies. In this activity, I am going to show you posters of popular films, and you will rate them with 1 to 5 stars. 5 is the highest, and 1 is the lowest. Please type your answer on the comment section. You have 5 seconds to give your rating. Are you ready? Let us begin. First is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Oh, this movie got good ratings. Let us have another one. How to Train Your Dragon. Are you ready? Go! Wow! This also scored well. Here is the last poster. Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Ready? Go! Time's up! Wow! This movie is also well loved. You all did well, raters. So, why did we rate movies today? Just like in our activity, giving your rating or even your own opinion about a story, a text, a novel, and a movie is an important skill needed in writing critic papers. But of course, your rating or opinion needs to be based on criteria and evidences. Today, you are going to use that skill and learn how to write a critic paper. What is a critic paper? A critic paper is a genre of academic writing that briefly summarizes and critically evaluates a work or concept. It can be used to carefully analyze a variety of works, such as creative works, research, and media. Creative works include novels, exhibits, films, images, and poetry. Some examples of research are monographs, journal articles, systematic reviews, and theories. Media include news reports and feature articles. Are you familiar with all these examples? That is great! Let us continue discussing what a critic paper is. Like an essay, a critic paper uses formal academic writing style and has a clear structure, that is, an introduction, body, and conclusion. However, the body of a critic paper includes a summary of the work and a detailed evaluation. Writing a critic paper helps you as a student develop a knowledge on the scope of a particular work, to increase your understanding on the work's purpose, intended audience and style, and to recognize the strengths and weaknesses of such work. Writing a critic paper involves more than pointing out mistakes. It includes an analysis of the work and then writing a fair and reasonable description of its strengths and weaknesses. Moreover, it is a careful analysis of an argument to determine what is said, how well the points are made, what assumptions underlie the argument, what issues are overlooked and what implications are drawn from such observations. It is systematic, yet personal response and evaluation of what you read. When you write a critic paper, you must use relevant and significant evidence from the work or text to demonstrate your point. A critic paper performs two related tasks when dealing with the evidence. First, it will analyze the evidence and then evaluate. But what's the difference between analyzing evidence and evaluating evidence? Let us look at this graphic organizer that shows the difference between the two. Analysis of evidence involves identifying which pieces of evidence are more important or less important, while evaluation of evidence focuses whether the pieces of evidence are sufficient, relevant, or valid. Now that we have understood the difference between analysis and evaluation of evidence, we must not forget about citation. Remember that evidences are facts that support a claim, and citation is a statement about where the facts are from. Knowing how to use citations correctly will save you from plagiarism. Now, let us move on and look at an example of a critic paper taken from essaypro.com. Let us read it. Why have there been no great female artists? The article, Why Have There Been No Great Female Artists, was written by a famous American art historian named Linda Nochlin. Throughout my reading of this article, it became clear that it focuses on the history and theory of feminist art. The author begins the piece with a declaration of her will to take a different feminist stance from the recent feminist activities. Linda Nochlin drives most of her argument by appealing to the emotions of the reader and providing historical investigations. In the article, Linda begins by pointing out several important issues that women face in modern society. She then states that we should avoid judging women and instead look at the history of how female artists are perceived in the art industry. Linda also talks about the semi-religious commencements of artists up until the 19th century. Now, let us look at how we can analyze the essay. Let us underline the evidences presented. First evidence is the author begins the piece with a declaration of her will to take a different feminist stance from the recent feminist activities. Linda Nochlin drives most of her argument by appealing to the emotions of the reader and providing historical investigations. Evidently, the writer of this critic paper expresses that the pieces of evidence presented are sufficient and relevant. Now, let us read the second underlined evidence. In the article, Linda begins by pointing out several important issues that women face in modern society. She then states that we should avoid judging women and instead look at the history of how female artists are perceived in the art industry. This part of the critic paper helps you understand how the writer identifies important evidence from the article that he read. It is also important to note that in writing a critic paper, we need to achieve cohesion, which is an important feature in any academic writing. If you can still remember the past discussion on cohesive devices, cohesion makes it easier for your reader to follow your main idea through words that express addition, contrast, emphasis, examples, or relationship of thoughts or ideas. When you write a critic paper of a journal or any piece of writing, you must do the following. First, analyze the reading material. Second, identify your personal reaction to it. Third, develop a clear, concise explanation to support your reaction. To be a successful critic, follow these reading strategies. Read the entire article, trying to identify the writer's main point. Underline any unfamiliar words as you read, but do not stop to look them up until you have finished reading. Carefully summarize the article using your own words. Read the article one more time to analyze how the author has supported his or her ideas. Are there examples, facts, or opinions? After reading and truly understanding the text, there are a variety of ways to structure a critic paper. These are the main features of a critic paper. First is introduction. The introduction introduces the work by stating the author, title, and source along with the date of publication. Include 1 to 2 sentence summary of the work and add it to the introduction, leading up to your thesis statement. Next is the body. In the body, you have to point out 3 to 5 points to support your thesis statement. In the body paragraph, you can discuss first, the author's credentials or lack of credentials. Next is the audience he or she aims at and appropriateness of the vocabulary. Another one is the amount and kinds of support used to back up his or her major ideas. Another thing is how the author handles any biases or opposing opinions. Lastly, how the author's ideas correlate with knowledge you already have. Use evidence from the work to demonstrate the point you are making. You can either paraphrase or quote directly. Also, explain why the evidence supports your point. Lastly, the conclusion. This is where you can summarize your points, restate your thesis statement in fresh words, and discuss the success or failure of the author to convince the reader. Is his or her work significant? How does it impact the readers? Now that we are done discussing the critic paper and its parts, let's have an activity. Arrange these reading strategies by numbering them with 1 to 4. I will give you 1 minute to do the task. Let's begin! sequence? The answer is 2, 1, 4, and 3. You all did well, but we are not yet done. In the next activity, you have to read the paragraph and identify if it is the introduction, body, or conclusion of a critic paper. The critic paper that we are going to study is an article review taken from uwlax.edu. Are you ready? Let's begin. Paragraph number 1. Overall, this article isn't very straightforward in the beginning, and it's not until the second page that you realize where the article is headed. In order to have more people to be engaged and read the whole article, it needs a new, more concise introduction. Once the reader gets to the really good examples that are relevant to the everyday life of a public administrator, a good portion of the article has already passed. Overall, it is a good, well-written article with an important message for public administrators and organizations. The piece, when taken as a whole, is relevant and very convincing in theory, but starts slow and never lays out a concrete way of approaching this complex problem. Is this paragraph an introduction, body, or conclusion? That is right! It is a conclusion. What was your clue? Yes, it is the transitional word, overall. Look at this next paragraph. This is good concept for how the problem of multiple value systems and accountability should be handled. However, there doesn't appear to be any concrete guidelines for carrying this out. In other words, this sounds great on paper, but it doesn't translate as easily to everyday life. There isn't research in the traditional sense for this article, but the author does include many examples of work written by those who have written on this subject in the past. What is your answer? Oh yes, that is right. It is a part of the body of the essay. Let's have the next one. The article, Administrators and Accountability, the Plurality of Value Systems in the Public Domain, by Udo Pest 6, to address how accountability and value systems interact in the decisions made by public administrators. The research problem being addressed is whether public administrators are free from accountability for their decisions and what are the different influences that can affect their decisions. What is your answer? If you say that this paragraph is an introduction, you are correct. Let us look at the last paragraph. It is clear from the abstract of the article that this is no simple issue. In fact, the article is fairly confusing for the first couple paragraphs. The author starts by saying that explicit ethnic codes of reference systems make it easier to hold individuals accountable for their actions. However, a conflict emerges when an individual's moral values are different from such accountability policies. What can make accountability more complicated are the motivations of the administrator and also the individual's inability to perceive future consequences of their decisions. What is your answer? Correct! It is a part of the body of the essay. It is now time for you to ask me questions. You know the drill. Just key in your queries and our teacher moderator will gather them. After a minute, I will be back to answer some of your questions. See you in a bit! I'm back! Let us check out some of your questions. Thanks to our teacher moderators for gathering them. The first one is from an international high school. How can writing critic papers help aspiring writers? Writing critic papers will develop critical thinking and help enrich one's writing style. Moreover, writing in general develops our thought processes and broadens our vocabulary. Our next question is from Dalandana National High School. Is it okay to be overly harsh when writing a critic paper? Writing is subjective, and you, as a writer, have the freedom to write your heart out. However, your critic must be supported with evidences that are properly analyzed and evaluated. And remember to write tastefully. This has been Sir Addis, and as Miss Tabitha Brown says, have a good day, and if you can't, don't go messing up nobody else's. See you in the next episode of Valenzuela Live.